So welcome everyone. My name is Michael Funk and I'm the director of the Expanded Learning Division here at the California Department of Education. Joined by some colleagues from the department and the field, which will introduce themselves over the course of the next little bit less than an hour. But I'm very enthusiastic to be part of this statewide system of support conference and to really talk about expanded learning in action. And for the inaction part, we have two leaders from school districts in the field who have exemplified what expanded learning in action really means. And collaborating across initiatives to support whole child success. You know, the days of expanded learning being regarded primarily as aftercare are in a rearview mirror. I remember when you heard Dr. Linda Darling Hammond open the conference and she referenced the days of No Child Left Behind. I remember when I was starting my work in San Francisco in the 90s and starting not only after school programs, but also bringing resources into the school day. It was really creating a full service community school before we called them those things. But we had after school programs, we had adult programs into the evening. The school became the center of the community. And we regarded this time between 3 and 6 as a platform where we could bring all types of resources into kids, to students, and even their families. And we had this ongoing debate with the school about how are you helping me with test scores? And then this notion almost of dismissiveness by some of the teachers that we were just the people who were keeping kids safe, just throwing out the ball and making sure that they were off the streets. And wow, we've come a long way because we know that the entirety of the educational system is seeing expanded learning as a key element to support whole child success and to really be so intentional about learning and development. And so, Jen, go ahead and switch the slide. So, I'm excited to have um, my team here from the department and from the field to bring some life and light to this discussion. But I just wanted to acknowledge before we started that we are really in a different place than we were even 5 to 10 years ago. And the kind of conversations we're in are very different. So thank you for joining us today as I look at the faces and names across the screen. I see a lot of different leaders in our system. I see people who've been joining our office hours. I see other people from CDE. Let's kick this off, Jen and Fred.
Good morning, everyone. Shout out to Region 9. Fred Buggs, Region 9 consultant for the Expanded Learning Division, along with my colleague Jen Taylor, Region 3 consultant for Expanded Learning as well, is going to be joining us. Thank you, Michael, for kicking that off. At this time, I want to show the outcomes for today's session, just to give you an idea. And if this is the place you were planning on being, hopefully these outcomes show up for you. First, participants will understand the basic elements of expanded learning. Participants will hear real-life examples from local education agency leaders that have aligned expanded learning and other statewide initiatives to support students. Participants will learn what the system of support for expanded learning is and their role in providing support to expanded learning programs. Expanded learning means before school, after school, summer, or intersession learning programs that focus on developing the academic, social, emotional, and physical needs and interests of students through hands-on, engaging learning experiences. It is the intent of the legislature that expanded learning programs are student-centered, results-driven, include community partners, and complement, but do not replicate, learning activities in the regular school day and school year.
Thanks, Fred. So we wanted to give you a little foundation of what the definition of expanded learning is, because sometimes it can mean different things for different people and even in different states. And so there, we do, in fact, have that definition. And what that looks like here in California is maybe a little different than what in other states, like increased learning time or extending the school day. But in fact, in California, expanded learning is complementing the school day. It's not expanding the school day. And so we're really fortunate here to have multiple funding sources, as far as state funding, specifically for California for expanded learning, and then also our federal investments. So with here in California, with the state funding, we have our ACES program, which is our after school education and safety funding, as well as the we're still calling it new Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, or ELOP. And then for the federal side, we have our 21st Century Community Learning Centers, where we have two elements. We have our elementary, middle, as well as our high school assets program. And so we wanted to bring that definition to really give everybody a foundation of what expanded learning is here. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the journey of expansion has been. So Michael mentioned 5 years ago, things changed 5 years ago dramatically with expanded learning funding. And before we were already, had a good investment as far as state funding and expanded learning, but we've grown dramatically. And so that's been the shift since about 2020. And so you'll see here the journey that we've been on as far as the expanded learning funding streams in California. On that far left, fiscal in 2020, 2021, we had a good amount of funding dedicated to expanded learning with our two funding sources at the time, which was our after school education and safety, ACES, and 21st Century Community Learning Centers. So we had about $798 million, which was a lot compared to a lot of other states. But then growing into today in 2025, we now have around $5.4 billion approximately, because the introduction of the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program in that 2021 year of the 1.75 billion and then up to 4 billion, and then we've increased it a little bit in the last year, has really dramatically shown an investment in supporting the needs of expanded learning here in California. And so you'll see this has been a dramatic, kind of increase, as well as an opportunity for many across the state that receive ELOP for transitional kindergarten through 6th grade. And so that has been the increase moving forward.
In September of 2014, informed by expanded learning practitioners and stakeholders, IN created and collaborates with CDE, Expanded Learning Division, and the California After Student Network. The Quality Standards for Expanded Learning in California was created. This bold initiative provides a roadmap for improving expanded learning programs throughout California.
And these quality standards that Fred just mentioned that were developed in partnership and back in 2014 as part of a work group, also there are 12 quality standards that were developed, 6 really focused on point of service, so directly supporting students. You'll see the point of service, for example, safe and supportive environment, or youth voice and leadership. And then there are 6 other quality standards really related to the programmatic elements of expanded learning. And so together, these 12 quality standards create aspiration. They create the vision of what quality can look like for participants, for staff, and for the program overall. And so, in this, all of these quality standards, as well as, we're going to go through some of the basic ELOP requirements, really do create that coherence with other initiatives in our system. And you may have heard from the keynote this morning with Dr. Linda Darling Hammond with the State Board of Education, as well as Dr. Woods, that this coherence and this initiative, this alignment of programs is what we're looking for as far as our system. And expanded learning is now has been part of that and has really grown now as part of this with the expansion to ELOP. And so you'll see there's connection to nutrition, there's connected to early learning, there's connection to community schools, there's connection to supporting English learners, our homeless youth. And you'll see that with the examples. We're going to bring in Sherry in London soon to really talk about what that can look like in partnership with expanded learning. So with that, first, we're going to give you a little bit of grounding of what ELOP, the basic elements are, as well as expanded learning, so that you kind of go into this knowing the basic requirements before we get into the real life initiatives. And so ELOP, we're focusing on ELOP. However, there is a lot of cross alignment with ELOP as well as our other programs. ELOP, in fact, was based on a lot of the after-school education and safety program requirements. If you didn't know that, that's what it's based on. And so also the connection to the quality standards that we just talked about as well, that is a lot of the foundation of the program plans that you write to when you write for ELOP and or ACES and or 21st Century. So that's why we wanted to bring in the quality standards as well. But here are the basic elements of ELOP. Program should be in person on every regular school day. It can be, there's flexibility as far as before school, after school, or both can, really build in that flexibility. However, it should be no less than 9 hours, okay, 9 hours. And that is a combination for after school or only after school, whatever it may be. And so the core day plus expanded learning should be 9 hours in person. In addition to every regular school day, there should at least be 30 non-school days, also no fewer than 9 hours in person too. So these are the kind of the core elements of ELOP as far as operations. For our sites that would be considered frontier, so frontier is a population density of a less than 11 person square mile. There's a little bit more flexibility in ELOP requirements. And so that is no fewer than 8 hours of combined instructional core time with expanded learning. And that would also be 8 hours for the 30 non-school days as well. So next we'll move to the basics of programming.
Thanks, Jen. Expanded learning programming. Couple bullet points we want to kind of highlight that are associated with expanded learning programming. Number one, every student is eligible to participate. All means all. Fees. Cannot charge homeless youth, foster youth, students eligible for free and reduced price meals. Family fees must be on a sliding scale based on the ability to pay. There's a 20-to-1 ratio. But in addition, there's a 10-to-1 ratio for transitional kindergarten and kindergarten. LEAs may provide up to 3 days of staff development during regular ELOP hours. Components of your program should include an educational and literacy element in one or more of the following areas: language arts, mathematics, history, social science, computer training, science. Educational enrichment element that may include fine arts, career, technical education, recreation, physical fitness, and prevention activities. Must include a snack and or meal. Last, and most importantly, staff must meet minimum qualifications for an educational aid pursuant to policies of their school district.
Thanks, Fred. So now you know the ELOP operation requirements for programming, and we wanted to give you that little basic element before we kind of jump into a real life conversation. And so now we're really pleased to invite London and Sherry into this space. And today's conversation really brings together these leaders who are shaping the future of expanded learning, and partnering within other statewide initiatives, so community schools and supporting English learners in schools across our state to ensure students feel connected, supported, and seen. And so we're going to go ahead and kind of move into just a conversation, an open conversation about what this looks like within their two LEAs, and really give you an idea of how this came across, how these what partners they've worked with within their own LEA or local educational agency, and a little bit of insight into their journey. And so what I like, what I want to do is kind of open it up first. I'll probably pass it to you, London, first, and then to you, Sherry, kind of our opening question of, can you tell us a little bit about your LEA, a little bit of background data on, numbers of students, and then, what inspired your journey into education and expanded learning? So I'll pass it to you, London, here, since we have your slide.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is London Duenas from the Marysville Joint School District. We're right between Sacramento and Chico, right in the middle. We have about 11,000 students district-wide, about almost 6,000 TK through sixth grade that we serve with ELOP. And our enrollment for ELOP has just been growing and growing and growing since I took this position. Like many of you, I started out as a teacher and I loved teaching. It was one of my favorite things. I always had my why very secure, young at age. And I just saw all of the different ways that kids were learning and the engagement, how important engagement was, how important it felt for students to feel like they belonged. And so taking on this at my career right now for expanded learning, it just goes right in there with my why. Just this opportunity to make learning fun and engaging again, and just really finding the importance of having students build on their interests, and also having teachers build on their interests and expertise, and those two things coming together. It's been a really great ride, and I've loved it so far.
Well, I can introduce myself. My name is Dr. Sherry Van, and I am the Director of Community Schools for Esparto Unified School District. We are a very small school district with less than 1,000 students across our TK through 12 district, with one elementary school, one middle school, one high school, and one continuation high school. I've always worked in rural school districts, and so they are special to my heart. Our population is about 75% Hispanic, 20% white, and 5% a little bit of everybody else. We have about 80% of our students on free and reduced lunch, so we are a high need area. We are in the heart of farming country in western Yolo County. Most people would know Davis. That's about 20 minutes away from us, and it's a beautiful community. I guess I embarked on this ELOP journey as a part of my work with community schools, because it's one of our community schools' key practices, and it fits so well that to further our initiatives and our goals with community schools for our community. And it aligns with my why. As a young person, I was in 4-H, and our motto back then was to make the best better. And I feel like through community schools and through the ELOP program, we are able to bring that to our students every day. And I love it. And so that's my why.
Thanks, London and Sherry. I date myself. This is my Phil Donahue moment. For those that so, let's go. London, you
Yes.
partnered to support English learners Can you speak a little bit about that and what you've done with your ELOP stuff?
I will be glad to. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, so as a teacher, I was an EL teacher for EL 1s and 2s when way back in the day when we had specialty classes during the general education day. But as an ELOP coordinator, I work really closely with our EL director at the district level. We kind of joined partnership in our two funding sources. He has the Title III or Title I, Title III. I have the ELOP. We got together and we trained a group of teachers. We have about 8 teachers that went through some specialty training on some of the curriculum that we use during the school day. They trained on like strategies working with ELD students, and then we also just really partnered with our schools and really kept communication with our EL facilitators. And that's why we kind of built on this notion that during our intersessions that we had these specialty classes that really focused on those skills that our newcomers needed and our EL levels 1s and 2s. So while his program did Saturday schools for our newcomers, our program really focused on using those same teachers. So those families were very comfortable with those teachers. Those same teachers worked in our intercession during those 30 days additional for ELOP, and then also during enrichment classes after school. So many of those teachers that have been trained in those specialized skills and all this, also the curriculum, they're able to do that during the school day. They do it for Saturday school for the newcomer, and then in our intercessions, they're also working. And then we work really closely with our EL facilitators at the school sites. Those are the people that are identifying our families. Our outreach consultants reach out to families personally, like they telephone them, they talk to them at meetings, they get their families enrolled in our classes. And we just found that to be really successful because a lot of times information is going out. We have so much information going out that we're kind of missing a lot of the connection. And where we got that back is during our EL meetings at the school sites. We're personally helping them enroll in like our intercession courses or our after school courses. And then with our after school, enrichment, we have a lot of culturally diverse activities that they can involve themselves in. We have Hmong culture clubs that have language and dance and all kinds of things that bring up their culture. Same with our Spanish. We have a really great mariachi group that our actual high school teachers came down to teach our middle school and grammar school mariachi. And so we've been able to bring our families together during those events, those, kind of when we get to bring them to the concerts, we connect with them also there. So it's just been really utilizing all of our different, from the district to the school site, to our outreach consultants and EL facilitators, making sure that our families feel connected. And then just really using those funds to help our teachers get trained, help them to develop the curriculum during their regular school day and Saturday schools, but then also finding ways for them to enrich that same curriculum in the ELOP portion after school enrichment classes and intercession. And that's what we've found to be very successful. We've had a lot of the same families are constantly asking, when is our next intercession? So it's been really successful for us.
Thank you, London. Appreciate the commitment to the English learners at your in your district. Dr. Sherry, if you could share how you've collaborated with community schools in Esparto.
Sure. I want to tell London, I think that's fabulous. And it's I wanted to ask a little question before I jump into the community schools part about is the work that's being done with the EL students, is it integrated into like anything that they choose in the after school program to do?
Yes.
Or
So
is it like designated?
No, they are able to access anything, any activity they want to after school. During our intersessions, we do have specialty classes that they'll break out to. We have music and we have STEM classes, and then we have EL para educators that also go into those specialty classes with students just in case they need translation or just additional support.
So they're getting the best of everything. That sounds great.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool. So with our integration of community schools and the ELOP program, really taking into mind the whole wheel, right? The 6 key practices of community schools, and there's different ways that those elements show up in our ELOP program. One way is about the culture of wellness and belonging. We have SEL paras at our elementary school and our middle school. And when we created those positions, we incorporated work into the ELOP program. So their day is not just a school day, it extends into the after school day, and they teach classes. They also bring the social emotional learning to everything that they do. They help with our PBIS system of rewards, which goes from school day to after school day. So really trying to have that cohesiveness from school day and beyond, because there are kids no matter what time of day it is. And another aspect is our work about shared decision making and shared leadership and empowering parents. I guess that's really 2 practices. But in empowering parents, we have had a series of focus groups, and it's really started when we were embarking on the plan to become a community school with the implementation grant, but it was so powerful and so impactful. It's something that has been built into our system that occurs a couple of times each year. And we look at any opportunity that we can get input from parents, so that communication is really 2-way, whether that is at an evening performance from our students that are in our musical, dance, theater, or choir classes after school, that their parents have an opportunity to do a survey and answer a QR code, or the actual focus groups where we bring parents together for roundtable discussions about what are our strengths, what are areas for growth, what would you like to see brought into this program, what would benefit your child and your family in this community. We have had some study tours, and that evolved into having tours for parents to come and see the program and visit all of the different classrooms when they would like to. And we also build in that part for the students and their choice. They get to choose which classes that they want to take. We want the students to have a lot of autonomy with that. And then I think about the community school practice of having a rigorous community connected classroom instruction. And that really shows up in how instruction looks after school. We really want it to be hands-on learning and what the students want to learn about. Most of our teachers start the beginning of a rotation. We rotate every trimester with asking the kids, well, what do you want to learn about? They have a topic, right? That, let's say it's a STEM class. Well, and so the topic is anything in that STEM, but then the kids are saying, what do they want to learn about? And the teacher makes that happen, and it makes it happen with the kids. So that's a really fun part. And we're diving more deeply into that in terms of connecting to the classroom instruction to help with advancing our students so that they have, the greatest possible outcomes for each of them. And I will talk about the shared decision making a little bit, because we're bringing our families, our parents, our community partners, and even our secondary students in making decisions for things like, who are we hiring for ELOP? And they are sitting on those interview panels, and they're helping make the decision of who's going to be teaching their kids. And it's been really powerful. We've had a lot of good response from families.
I'm just listening to you both too about the connection with that, the certificated teachers and the SEL paras. How do you navigate? Because sometimes we hear about, there's burnout too. How to navigate burnout? Are you doing like staggered schedules? How does that work where there are staff that are also part of the core day, but then involved in expanded learning or participating in training? So just wanted to get a little insight into how you're also navigating logistics behind that.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of different sessions where districts didn't have their teachers working in the after school programs. All of our credentialed teachers are in our inner sessions for the first part of our morning, our 8:30 to 12:30. For the after school portion, we hire paraprofessional level for the ACES part of it. Teachers actually sign up for 6 months at a time or half the school year. Our teachers union has long ago negotiated extra duty salary, and that's kind of what they get, excuse me, for teaching those courses. But it's all obviously voluntary. We do have certain categories that we're looking for, like our STEM, the VAPA, and those things. And a lot of times the teachers, that's kind of their expertise, or those are their fields that they love, and they're not getting to teach a lot of that during the school day. And so they get to dedicate, 3 hours a week doing something that they love. And so our teacher employment for after school has gone from 50 students to right now, I have 220 teachers that are teaching in our after school expanded learning program. And the burnout, I think, comes from, as being a teacher on the other side, is when things aren't really well organized or thought out, and things are clunky. I think that a lot of planning goes into it, a lot of training, so that teachers don't feel like they're not sure what they're doing. And I think a lot of that has alleviated the stress of teaching extra days and extra hours.
I would add trial and error. Like, we made mistakes. 7 years ago, I couldn't get an elementary teacher to teach after school at all. And with the ELOP, just like London was saying, being able to lean into the passions of our staff and what they want to bring to the table. Just like London said, we have different categories, but leaning into those passions really kind of just amplified and elevated people and increased their desire to participate. And so what it looks like for us is 53% of our staff in the after school ELP program is our teachers, certificated teachers. 37% are classified staff. And then we have 10% that are outside business partners that come in and do some specialty work. So, and our certificated teachers have like first dibs per their contract. But when being interviewed, we ask them, well, what are your passions? What are you interested in? And that's actually a part of the interview. That's how important it is that we know what they are interested in, and how, and the teachers are teachers, like they are teachers in their heart, and they really connect whatever their passion is. Maybe it's gardening, maybe it is sewing, maybe it is robotics. They really connect it to the learning that's happening during the school day and extending it.
I mean, that's amazing. Also, that it's part of the interview process. Expanded learning is actually part of that and connected. And I mean, it sounds like there's a huge measurable um, impact of teachers involved in expanded learning. Are there any other measurable, differences that you've seen with expanded learning in your programs?
Yeah, our enrollment has just been doubling every intersession that we hold. Each year, this is my 3rd year with ELOP, and it's just growing so quickly. I think because of the success of it, our intersessions are all theme based. So all of our curriculum, all of the scholastic books we use, all of our assemblies and field trips, all go along with that theme, which helps build up those language skills and vocabulary skills. And I think that with our teachers being so, they're really enjoying teaching. And so that also shows in how our students are reacting, how our families reacting. Our surveys are showing that the parents they're eager to get them enrolled in any kind of classes that we're providing. And so our enrollment has gone from 250 students to 1,000 students at each of our, intersessions. It's just growing. And we see that too, longevity, just our attendance overall is better for students that are participating in ELOP, and our discipline rates are down in those areas. And I think we'll see more correlation to the data when we're in CalPADS, and we're looking at those numbers a little bit more stringently, I guess.
I would agree. We've had higher attendance and not just higher attendance during the school day, but higher attendance in our after school work, right? That when I first was a principal at our elementary school, the it was really childcare, right? When we had a snack and they had a homework power hour and they had childcare. And then we just with ELOP, we just realized it could be so much more. And with that so much more, people are taking greater advantage of it. And kids are not going home alone to sit on their screens. They are here and they are doing hands-on learning and having fun with their friends and their classmates. Um so and we see that with our attendance and enrollment has improved. And of course, we are seeing improvement in our outcomes even with state testing. So there's been lots of measurable growth.
Yeah, I think our school sites too are really starting to see that we're really a partner in building our kids' academic growth. And so that's been a big part of it also. That we are not babysitting. We are actually part of their academic growth.
We're using our a system, a data system, right? Everybody has their own version of a data system to look at specifically our kids that are enrolled in the after school program and pull them out as a cohort as we like continue this cycle of refinement. That how can we like really specifically know that exactly the kids that are in this program how they are doing in comparison to their peers, because right now we know like half of our kids from our elementary school are in our after school program, which is more than double of where we were a few years ago. But now like using that data system to really pull out how they are doing in achievement versus their peers. And so that's in progress. So more to come on that.
And we're talking a little bit about the data too, how, and when you mentioned the CalPADS data, how did it go about, as far as partnering with internally to get that data or to connect with your data contacts to kind of start that collection? Because I know that this is the first year. Things are a little, it's new, it's fresh. So is there anything that you learned from that process of partnering internally to start that collection that you'd be willing to share with everybody too?
It
Uh,
We
yeah.
are so small. We are so small. And so the administrators are the data people. We don't have a data person per se. And so like we have to dig in and learn how to use our student information system. And then the companies that we contract with for those data to learn how to do that. And so I think the real learning is asking a lot of questions and asking like, what's our next step? How can we make this better has been, I think, that my best advice, because it's going to be incremental.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're kind of in the stage where we are I guess identifying those students who are in the ELOP programs, expanded learning, and then we're looking at those, pulling those ARIES reports, but it's also not really academic. And so we're really looking forward to kind of better looking at our data, and we're going to need additional help to do that.
A lot going on in Marysville and Esparto. Appreciate you guys joining this call. We've talked about all the great things that have happened, some of the challenges, um, some of the growth that you've had in creating these programs. And if two of you could just speak to some of the barriers that you've encountered over the last couple of years, ELOP funding and all the things you're trying to do at your district, and just share, what you've encountered and how you've sort of kind of stepped over those barriers and hurdles as well.
I would say just making sure that everybody has the same vision or really understands your vision, and trying to find those people that have that drive to get things done. Not waiting until everyone is ready before starting. I think that was the big key. I'm a big proponent of just jumping in with both your feet, and then you build the airplane while you're flying. There's so many different ways to say that, but you know what I mean. But I just really think that it really, kids aren't going to wait for it to be perfect, and you kind of learn as you're building it. You do something, you take a survey, you communicate with people, you find out what would make things better, and you change that to make it better. And that's really been what our success has been, is just letting it be messy a little bit. Just it's kind of organized chaos at the beginning, and then you just kind of start fine tuning things. And then pretty soon you just have this well-oiled machine where you're thinking back, well, how did we get here? But there was a lot of hiccups along the way, but we just worked through them. And it's really what the partnerships that we have in our district and our teachers and our support staff, that we really work together to really fine tune things to make it the best experience for our students and our families.
Yeah, I echo everything London said. Not unique here. I'd add space, and that really, I think that that nuance was very specific to the vision and understanding that these are our kids no matter what time of day it is. And so your space is not your space, it is a shared space, was a challenge and something that we are continually working on. Another component, if we go back prior to ELOP, we had with the ACES funding, there really wasn't collaboration between school day and after school day. And with ELOP and the work that we're trying to do to elevate what is happening after school and as an extension of what's happening during the school day, we meet collaboratively weekly with our partner. People have partners from their local communities. Ours is Rise Incorporated, and we meet weekly with the after school program. We ran, with the after school program coordinators, and it's a shared co-facilitated meeting. We share the creation of the agenda, we share the facilitation of the meeting, and it's a true partnership. And I think that that has been huge in overcoming barriers as they come up, because we have such an open line of communication. The site principals attend them when they can, and that helps as well. Um, and I think a struggle with, now we have this really great opportunity with attendance recovery. And so then there's a desire to have to expand, right, to the middle grades. And we had this really fun experience this year where we had middle grade students in our musical dance theater, and we had not before. And the class conflicted with the middle school sports that these kids are participating in. And so it was bringing together coaches and the teacher and the coordination to figure out, okay, how are we going to make it through right now, and how are we going to make it better for the future? And everybody is focused on a cycle of improvement. How do we make it better?
Yeah, that space thing is real, is a struggle sometimes. Luckily for us, we have the ACES we kind of already established, and we're using some classrooms, but then the teachers that sign on, they're using their own classrooms. That's kind of alleviated a little bit of it, but that's a continual struggle as well in Marysville.
I hear there's a lot of collaboration, communication, continuous improvement. A lot of those themes are kind of coming from this. Um, and we just, we want to thank you for sharing your journey and, what impact you're making, even measurable impacts as far as data and the families involved in this, the staff involved, including the community partnership, just it's huge. Those are, and seeing the evolution of what you've accomplished on your journey. And so we just want to end here with, kind of a last bit of advice for future leaders in Expand Learning. What is one piece of advice you would give to future leaders? What would that be?
Sherry, you want to go first?
No, you can go first. It's all good.
I really feel like it's just don't wait to make things perfect before starting. I think that that's kind of been one of the things, that when you have an idea and you have a vision of things, and you kind of are gathering people in this, starting something, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to work out the kinks. And like I said before, like, kids don't wait. They don't need perfection. They need us to start. And so I just feel like that's been something that I go by, and it's worked well for us, and we just kind of work out the kinks as we're going. But just don't wait for things to be perfect. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something you're going to have to tweak and fine tune.
I agree. I would say that if you want a truly innovative program, lean into your students and your families. They will tell you what they want and what they need, and they will share ideas that you would not have come up with on your own. And in that same vein, like, don't put limitations on yourself. Just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean you can't bring it in now.
Well, thank you, London, Sherry. Everybody, if you could just do a react, just a little shout out appreciation to London and Sherry for their advice and getting to hear their journey. Thank you. And just want to thank you again for being here and sharing. And I will go ahead and I'm going to pass it to you, Michael, to talk about a little bit about our system to close our session today.
Well, we have a lot of people on this Zoom are part of the system of support for expanded learning, and this slide just lists the different county offices that we work with, the staff here at CDE work with, and in geographic areas to support the kind of innovation that London and Sherry have been talking about. And of course, London and Sherry are part of the Region 3, and that Jen is assigned as the education program consultant to Region 3, works with the Sacramento County Office of Education. And when we started talking about how can we bring to life what real collaboration looks like, Jen immediately knew both of you and knew your programs and just knew that you would be the right people to bring on. And all across California, there are people doing innovative work. And Jen, I know we have a resource slide, but you can go ahead and put that up. So it's on the recording. And a lot of the things we've talked about are here, but I want to go back to London and Sherry. I feel like we could go on for another hour. You just touched upon, now we have stuff going into CalPads. You touched upon, and then there's attendance recovery. And I've been to Esparto, Sherry, for the study tour of a community school, and I watched students on stage with their parents talk about their engagement and love for the program. I was led by students on the site visit and students who were deeply engaged. And London, you mentioned used to have 250 kids. Now we've got 1,000. Well, you don't increase by 400% because you'd had a good plan. You increase by 400%. I mean, a good plan is essential, but you increase by 400% because kids knew that there's something there, that there's people that care about them and they feel like they belong. And when we're in this world of disconnectedness, learning is essential, educational outcomes are essential, but more importantly, our kids need to feel like they belong and that there's adults that care about them, and love is at the center. And I've seen that. And the one thing I would just ask you in the 60 seconds we have left, this is all about collaboration. It's all about a bigger picture. You've talked about how Expanded Learning Opportunities Program allowed you to see this as so much more. I'm still interacting with people who are saying, I haven't had, the Expanded Learning person says, I haven't had a conversation with I think we're running out of time. Anyway, thank you for all that you talked about, all that you're doing, all that you're leading. And we'll put this session to a close. Thank you, Jen and Fred, for facilitating a wonderful conversation. And thanks to all of you for joining us today.